Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Welcome to another episode of the Andrew Parker Show. Thank you very much for joining us. Each episode we talk politics, Israel, and the law as we are closing out 2025, moving into 2026. I want to talk about something quite fundamental on this episode number, 447 of the show. Quite fundamental indeed. Tucker Carlson, you all know Tucker Carlson, a one-time sane conservative analyst, commentator, talk show host. Throw a bomb in the room and watch the people scatter. Yeah, that Tucker Carlson. He has been raising the issue lately of whether Israel is a solid ally for the United States, whether Israel is a liability and not an ally. A liability, a burden, whether the relationship between the U.S. and Israel is wholly one-sided and the U.S. ought to reassess its alliance with the state of Israel. He doesn't raise reassessing the U.S. alliance with Saudi Arabia or with Qatar, or even whatever the alliance is with Turkey. He doesn't raise those. He raises whether the alliance with the state of Israel, whether the U.S., it's in the U.S.'s interest to maintain a strong, extremely strong relationship with the state of Israel. In part, he says, the U.S.-Israel relationship is a liability for the United States. If we didn't have this alliance, we wouldn't be so hated by the Muslim terrorist Islamist countries. Maybe they would love us. Who knows? Maybe they would love us if we jettisoned the state of Israel. So, having Israel as an ally is a liability. This is what Tucker Carlson argues. And, of course, he cites the $3.5 billion in military assistance that Israel has received each year. You may not know the history, but the U.S.-Israel relationship goes all the way back to recognition of the reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1948 when Democratic President Harry Truman was in the name of the United States, the U.S. became the first country to recognize the reestablishment of the Jewish state, the state of Israel. After that, many followed, and Israel was created as a sovereign state and a member state of the United Nations, for whatever that has been worth, which is very little other than death and destruction and virulent hate out of primarily, both the General Assembly and beyond. But the reestablishment of the state, it dates back to Truman, certainly, and all the rest of the history in World War II, the Holocaust, and beyond that, prior to that, into the 1800s, and then back into, certainly if you wanted to trace back into biblical times, well before Christianity or Islam ever existed. the Jews were in the land of Israel as the indigenous people. But the other important background in history is that the United States has had a strong alliance ever since, ups and downs over the last 75 plus years. But the alliance has been very strong. We're going to talk on this show about whether the U.S. has whether the U.S.-Israel relationship is in the best interests of the United States, strategically and otherwise, or whether it is indeed a liability, a burden, and we are better off jettisoning the Jewish state, that small little size of New Jersey state with a few million people. Jews in the world, you may know, make up 0.02%, or 0.2% of the world population, about 2.5% of the U.S. population. So a couple of decades ago, and for a few consecutive number of years, the United States provided economic and military assistance to the State of Israel. I believe it was 10 or more years ago that the economic assistance was sunsetted and ended, and Israel was on its own in terms of its economy. I believe that really helped Israeli economy, but it is a story of great resilience and effort, a story of not wanting to be supported by the U.S. from an economic perspective, and the economy of the State of Israel has thrived. No economic assistance is provided. However, military assistance has continued to be provided. And with the array of 100-plus times the number of people and the geographic size of the enemies of Israel surrounding the little Jewish state, military assistance from the United States has been critical, or arguably, and many have argued, the Holocaust during World War II would be continued as the Jews in the State of Israel would be destroyed without military assistance from the United States. Now, whether that be the case or not, I don't think it would be, but it certainly would make things very difficult for continuing the continuation of the State of Israel. So you've got a military assistance package from the United States based on a memorandum of understanding, which was entered into about 10 years ago, and it's going to likely be up now for very important votes to be renewed. And the purpose of the memorandum is to maintain a qualitative, not quantitative, because certainly the Jews in the State of Israel, the government of Israel is not quantitatively able to match what its enemies have surrounding it. However, qualitative military edge, the QME as it is known, is the critical foundation of military assistance for the State of Israel. So Tucker Carlson argues Israel's a liability, a burden. it has very little value to the United States. Well, let me suggest raise a few questions. Is Tucker Carlson not aware of the military, economic, and technological power that the state of Israel has in the Middle East, second to none in the Middle East? This small little country, again, the size of the state of New Jersey in total, the entire country. You could fit 9 Israels, the entire country, 9 of them, almost 10 of them, in the state of Minnesota. And with just, a few million people, maybe 13, and that's Jews and non-Jews alike. Actually, I think it's less than that number, Jews and non-Jews alike. I believe about 8 million Jews in the state of Israel, and that's it. It's a military, economic, and technological power in the region. Well, does that mean that we should align with them? No, not necessarily. But at the heart, foundationally, is Tucker Carlson not aware of the common foundational values that the state of Israel has, unlike any other country in the Middle East, unlike any other Arab country, unlike any other Muslim country in the world, aligns with the values of the United States? The values in the foundation and the founding of the state of Israel, grounded in the same values as the United States, values of freedom, of equality, of the rule of law, of liberty, of democracy. You need to understand the freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion, all defended to the nth degree in the state of Israel, like few other places. In particular, if you look at the politics in Israel, the media, and how things are covered in Israel, it is wide open. If you were to say the things that are said in the state of Israel in media, journalism, in the streets, around the kitchen table, in many countries around the world, you'd be taken away, never to be seen again. That is not the case in Israel. We'd like to believe it's not the case here in the United States, and I believe it isn't. The common values, the equality, the treatment of the LGBTQ community, the treatment of women and gender-based differences, it is grounded in liberal thought. Maybe that's why Tucker Carlson doesn't like it, but it is like the United States. And that just doesn't exist anywhere else in the Middle East, and frankly, doesn't even exist in Western Europe to the level that it exists in the state of Israel. So that is of utmost importance. Why should they be an ally? What? You're not aware of the unique similarities of freedoms that exist in the state of Israel and the United States? I think you are aware. What about the alliance and the national security benefits and regional interests that the United States gains from its alliance with the state of Israel? The U.S. and Israel have a unique relationship to establish national security. Yes, national security for the state of Israel, but also for the United States. This is a strategic part of the world, and there is no partner anywhere in the world, in any region of the world, that is as supportive of the United States, that is working hand in glove with the United States, like the state of Israel. Its relationship, its strategic partnership that the U.S. has with Israel is second to none. Is Tucker Carlson not aware of that? Does he think, well, that's just pablum? Really? Is it? Well, let's take a closer look. I would argue, and I think Tucker Carlson is aware of this, Israel helps keep America safe and strong. Israel provides our nation with access to the Jewish state's extensive intelligence network, cutting-edge defense technology, and unparalleled experience in combating terror threats. No other country in the world meets the benefits that Israel provides to the United States in this regard. The combating of threats from abroad, the Iron Dome, the sling, the arrow, and the use of that out in the battlefield, benefiting the United States, is immeasurable. It's priceless. Combating terrorism and threats and the different uses of defensive mechanisms to terror threats is second to none. The U.S. and Israel regularly collaborate on countering cyber attacks. This isn't just waving a wand, oh, well, if it didn't exist, no big deal. No, this saves real lives. Is Tucker Carlson not aware of that? Countering cyber attacks, Israel is second to none in doing that. And they share it with the United States. Emergency management response, second to none in providing that. Sadly, because Israel has had to have so much experience in having to do emergency management and response. How about counter-tunneling? Who could have more experience with it than the state of Israel? 400 miles of tunneling, and much before the Gaza war. 400 miles of tunneling in Gaza. And believe me, that is going to become helpful, potentially, for the United States in the future, whether they are fighting abroad or in the homeland. So Israel faces extensive attacks of all different kinds, and defense technology is second to none. And America's partnership with Israel ensures that our troops have access to this cutting-edge technology. Israel creates it itself in many respects. The U.S. creates it here, providing it to Israel to be used in the battlefield, in actual combat, in actual scenarios, as opposed to created scenarios, is second. The experience is second to none, and saves American lives. Secondly, Israel's enemies, in large part, are the U.S.'s enemies. And fighting our enemies where we don't have to send our blood and only a small amount of our treasure has great value. We don't have to send our kids to fight for Israel. Never has Israel asked us to do that? Since the creation of the Jewish state, never. Did you know that? Tucker Carlson knew it. I know he knows it. So it's not that kind of burden which so many countries call for, including NATO and Western Europe. Remember the Carlson and the NATO alliance. We will send our troops to defend Europe. They're not going to defend themselves. Israel puts on the line an enormous percentage of its GDP, way above any country in Europe, to defend itself so the U.S. doesn't have to. Yes, the U.S. provides military assistance each year to maintain the qualitative military edge, but Israel puts in its part well beyond any other country in the world. Yet, Tucker Carlson attacks the alliance between the United States and Israel, not any of these others. So Israel is fighting Iran and its terrorist proxies. Yes, indeed. These same enemies of the United States. Israel is fighting the China, Iran, Russia axis consistently. Just like the United States is, Israel has played a leading role in countering nuclear proliferation in the Middle East, preventing an already dangerous region from becoming even a greater threat to America. Israel took out Iraq's nuclear reactor in 1981, Syria's nuclear reactor in 2007. Israel's carried out numerous operations to expose and delay and undermine Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons, most recently this past summer, when the United States and Israel carried out one of the greatest military victories related to military, related to the destruction of nuclear proliferation by our enemies. Israel softened the defenses of Iran, basically obliterated them, allowing the United States to take out, with the bunker busters, big bombs, the three key nuclear facilities in Iran. Remember, 1 in 6 American combat fatalities in Iraq were attributable to Iran. This is an enemy of the United States that Israel has neutered. No, it was the United States. No. Israel put its forces on the line, flying sortie after sortie into Iran, softening and eliminating its missile defense systems, and taking care of, by the way, another common enemy of Hezbollah during the previous several months, and the Muslim Brotherhood, who now is raising its power again. Israel understands how to deal with it. Tucker Carlson is aware of this. In effect, Israel is a force multiplier for America's military. It allowed the United States to not just talk, to not just say don't, which was Joe Biden's policy, but it allowed the United States to actually do. to actually carry out attacks when the red line is crossed, rather than drawing a red line and ignoring it like a Barack Obama did in Syria. No, the U.S. and Israel worked hand in glove, and they destroyed a mutual threat. That's a liability? That's a burden on the United States? That's what Tucker Carlson really means? What about Israeli technology? Not American technology, Israeli technology that advances American security, without which American security would be weaker. Israel has pioneered revolutionary technologies to help keep its people safe and thereby keeping Americans safe. And the United States applies Israeli technology and extensive experience with joint meetings and cooperation virtually every month that safeguards the United States' critical infrastructure, our citizens, our troops, tunnel detection, missile defense, countering drones, Israel's second to none, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, second to none, emergency medicine, and safeguarding and saving people's military soldiers, otherwise lives. Now carried in every American soldier's first aid kit and by emergency responders around the world is the Israeli emergency bandage. This is just one example, which stems blood loss, prevents infection, and allows soldiers to stabilize a wound with just one hand. This technology has helped reduce battlefield fatalities caused by hemorrhaging countless times. And in fact, what was the congresswoman's name in Arizona? Gabby Giffords. Saved her life. It happened to be on the scene. These life-changing emergency bandages happened to be on the scene when she was shot in the head. Saved her life by all measures and comments of the medical teams there. Again, just one example. Tucker Carlson is unaware of that? No, I don't think so. Yet he calls Israel out as a liability, a burden, really. Israel also helps keep America prosperous, helps our economy, doesn't hinder it. $3.5 billion is nothing. It's a drop of water in the bucket compared to what the United States gets back for that investment. This foreign aid to the state of Israel supports over 250,000 American jobs and infuses billions of dollars into our economy. This is what you call a return on investment. Why would Tucker Carlson say that this is a burden or a liability by the United States investing this amount of money, $3.5 billion or so, each year in the state of Israel, when it supports over 250,000 jobs here in the United States and infuses billions, a multiple of what is invested into our economy? By 2028, all U.S. security assistance to Israel will be spent in America. Let me say that again. By 2028, all U.S. security assistance, that is this $3.5 billion or so, will be spent in America. It'll be spent back here in the United States. And what does that mean? That creates jobs. It creates profits. It's driving the economy here. It is a return on investment. And it's going to create tens of thousands, high-quality American jobs. Total Israeli foreign direct investment in the United States was $22.4 billion in 2023. $22.4 billion. And Tucker Carlson, what, he doesn't know this? Why is he saying the U.S.-Israel relationship is a burden and a liability on the United States? He doesn't know this? It's a strengthening of our economy. America exported $15 billion of goods to Israel in 2024, up 5.8% from 2023. I dare say there isn't another country that has had that kind of increase. Along with $8.3 billion in services, making Israel the United States' 27th largest trading partner. Think about that. This is a dinky little country with, a few million people. They're an enormous trading partner for that, $3.5 billion of military assistance. Trade barriers are next to none between the countries. And Israel recently, you may have seen this, eliminated all tariffs on American imports. One of the first countries to do it when Trump was making threats. They did it immediately without big negotiations or fanfare. That's what an ally does. They're a model ally. They invest significantly in their own defense. They don't just take from the U.S. They reinvest back into the U.S., and they invest in their own, a multiple of what the U.S. provides. And now, a word from our sponsors. A record of success second to none. Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm, the numbers tell the story. The last 5 cases our lawyers have brought to trial have resulted in million and multi-million-dollar verdicts for our plaintiff clients and 0 defense verdicts for our defense clients. Put simply, we try cases and we win cases. Hi, I'm Andrew Parker. At Parker Daniels Keyboard, we take our work personally and we go the extra mile. That is why some of the biggest law firms, locally and nationally, send cases to us to handle when they can't. If you have a challenging and critically important business or personal legal dispute that must be favorably resolved, whether regarding a contract matter, a business divorce, a real estate dispute, an employment dispute, a civil rights or defamation matter, plain talk, if it's a big deal, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard. Wise counsel, winning results. Go to parkerdk.com. Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you. Israel is expected to spend 7.35% of its GDP on defense. Significantly more than the United States did. Now, obviously, the United States has a huge economy, but we only spent 3.4% in 2023. More than double the state of Israel spent on its defense. Well, you could say, well, they're in a region of the world where they have to. Da, da, da. Listen, they are taking it upon themselves. They're not just takers, they're producing. Tucker Carlson's aware of this. A heck of a lot more than the Europeans are doing. What, are they the greatest allies of the U.S.? They might well be a burden, a liability. Half the time, their foreign policy positions are contrary to ours. That doesn't exist in Israel. Our enemies are Israel's enemies. And Israel supports our positions across the world in terms of protecting against our enemies. The average NATO ally spends 2.2%. Again, Israel, 7.35%. Yeah, but Tucker Carlson doesn't call out the European allies. Prior to October 7th, even prior to October 7th, 2023, Israel spent nearly 5.5% of its GDP on defense, more than any other Western nation. And this number rose to about 9.3% during the Gaza war, as Israel has been forced, a war brought upon them, they've been forced to confront the multi-front threat of Iran, its proxies, including the Houthis, including Hezbollah, including Hamas, including Islamic Jihad. Listen, American assistance for the state of Israel in terms of military assistance, all the economic assistance is gone. What country does that? Most try to increase it, try to get the budget ballooned. No, Israel wants to be self-sufficient. They do not want U.S. troops boots on the ground. They do not want economic assistance. And frankly, they don't want military assistance. But they do need that support. But even with military assistance, American security to Israel, assistance to Israel comprised 21% of Israel's defense spending. By 2028, it is to decline to 12%. So even with military assistance, Israel is fighting to reduce it each and every year in terms of a percentage. Tucker Carlson is aware of this, yet he calls it a burden instead of a liability. Today, as we sit, the annual security assistance that the United States provides, that Congress appropriates each year, remains essential to Israel's ability to defend its people, to defend half the Jewish population that exists in the world that now lives in Israel. It's critical in order that we can gain the advantages, the strategic advantages, the foothold in the Middle East, the aircraft carrier that we don't have to spend money on having there is the state of Israel. The close operational ties that we have with the state of Israel, the security ties that we have, the intelligence ties that we have, the training, the medical innovations, along with all the other innovations, the 21st century military campaign changes that are coming at us, including drones and cybersecurity attacks. Israel is second to none, well beyond our European allies in advancements in these areas that protect and save American lives. And Tucker Carlson doesn't know this? Oh, he knows. Yet he calls it out as a liability and a burden, this relationship with the state of Israel. Now, I haven't even touched on the other reasons why it is in American interests to defend to the bitter end the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Let me just identify for you how the state of Israel, this embattled state, constantly under attack by terrorists and the enemies of the United States, the same enemies, these Islamist enemies that do not have any of the freedoms that the state of Israel has, that are not grounded on any of the liberties or democratic ideals that the state of Israel has, identical to those in the United States. None of these Islamist countries have that similarity, have the same foundational values. But Tucker Carlson calls Israel out as the liability? Doesn't mention Qatar or Saudi Arabia or even Egypt, for that matter. All of these Islamic countries are founded on ideals that are an anathema to us here in the United States. Horrific. Women, second-class citizens. Can't get a driver's license in many of these places. Can't be educated. Can't take a job. If they're walking alone, they can get beaten. And it's permitted. Now, it's a bit shocking that Tucker Carlson calls out Israel as a liability or a burden for the United States when Israel fights technologically, through innovation, and actually on the battlefield for the ideals of the United States. But going beyond that, has Israel helped the United States and the rest of the world in any other respects? Well, what about the top? Let me just give you a few of the top innovations that came out of the state of Israel and are now shared with the rest of the world. Saving lives, making lives better in the world. Good. This is good. Not suicide bombers blowing people up and then having their family name put on a plaque and having the plaza named after their family. These suicide bombers. Or having their family receive rewards for blowing up kindergartners or teenagers at a nightclub. Because that's what the Islamists do. Compare that to creating the mobile eye camera, this little thing that they put into your system, and it goes and it provides reconnaissance information for doctors so that you don't have to engage in invasive procedures. That was an Israeli invention, now shared with the world. How much suffering has been avoided because of that? That is good, not evil. The USB flash drive, you know that little thing you stick in the side of your computer? I don't even know how to use it, but people use it all the time. Download all this information. You carry this little thing in your pocket. You got the whole world right there in your... That was created in Israel by Israelis, shared with the world. The Iron Dome, how many people did that save in Israel? As these Islamists were firing rockets into Israel a sovereign country taking on rocket fire for years, every week, every month, thousands of rockets. What other country would live with that? They would do a heck of a lot more than what the Israelis did in Gaza. It would have been leveled fully, and not a person would have been left. But the Iron Dome protected Israeli citizens, and it has protected others around the world, and it is being shared around the world, including here in the United States. This was invented in the state of Israel. Have no mistake. It was Israelis that invented it. Yes, the U.S. then came in and worked side by side and provided some of the funding for it as well. No question. But this was an Israeli invention, and it was perfected in Israel, and it was used on the battlefield. How many American lives is the Iron Dome going to save? What about Waze? You use Waze? It's the number one how to get from A to B with up-to-date, immediate information about traffic. Up to date, up to the moment. Real-time traffic information as to which route is best. That was invented in the state of Israel. The pill cam, I guess I talked about that, the non-invasive pill cam that you drop in. The mobile eye that I was referring to before is this camera that has inordinate amount of uses that was invented in the state of Israel that is now being used in places around the world. Solar-powered water heaters. 150 countries around the world now use Israeli-invented solar-powered water heaters to bring hot water in places that it never existed. That was invented in the state of Israel. Cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes first came out of the state of Israel. Now eaten around the world. That's an invention back in the 1970s, a creation out of the state of Israel. The rewalk for those who are disabled and cannot walk. You strap on this rewalk, and it allows these disabled people who have never walked or who have lost their ability to walk to actually be mobile. Amazing. And that is now being shared with the world. One of the most incredible inventions, drip irrigation. Drip irrigation in desert environments and in other low water environments have saved billions of lives. Yeah. Millions at least. Some say, though, billions of lives. Because it has brought water to areas and used it in a most effective way so as to avoid waste, because there is so little water in those areas. There are many, many, many places on Earth where that is the case, that has saved many lives from the drought and famine that can result. Drip irrigation, invented in the state of Israel. Tucker Carlson doesn't care about any of this. No, they're not a good ally. No, we shouldn't protect them and keep them safe or help keep the state of Israel safe. What other country has these kind? Yeah, the U.S., okay. You know what's crazy? You think Tucker Carlson is aware that Nobel Prizes, I'm not talking about the Peace Prize, I'm talking about all of the scientific endeavors that Nobel Prizes are given for. Yeah, we'll throw in literature as well. But all of the scientific endeavors for sure, physics, medicine, economics. Of all the Nobel Prizes given, somewhere between 20 to 22% of all Nobel laureates have been Jewish. 20 to 22%. Despite the fact that Jews make up about 0.2% of the world population. My gosh, they're punching well above their weight. How is that? And of all the U.S. Nobel Prize winners, Nobel Prizes going to people in the United States, 36% are Jewish of those U.S. Nobel Prize winners. Yet, the U.S. population of Jews is less than 2.5%. 36% are Jewish in the United States. Over 220 Nobel Prizes awarded to Jews. But that country, those people, they're a liability. They're a burden. And there's really no U.S. advantage or benefit to keeping them around, to having close strategic ties with them, to treating them closer than any country in the world, including Canada or certainly Great Britain. Just as an aside, not that it matters really, there have been 12 Nobel laureates who are Muslim. You know, I don't frankly know what the difference is between religious approach to technology or innovation or invention. Doesn't really matter. What matters is support for Israel is enormously beneficial to the United States. And to suggest otherwise has to raise a question of why Tucker Carlson is actually saying this. He's not a dimwit. And he's saying that Israel's a liability, is not a good ally, a strong ally, but a burden. And that the U.S. support for Israel is one-sided. The U.S. gets nothing out of it. As I have outlined during this episode, the U.S. gets an enormous benefit from this alliance. I would argue a much larger benefit than any other single ally of the United States. And with all that benefit, a country that lives by, that day in and day out defends the same values, the values that the United States was founded on. So in addition to all of those measurable benefits, the benefit of having a country like the State of Israel, which is grounded in those same strong values for good and to destroy evil, That is the kind of ally that we want and need. We don't have it in Europe. We don't have it, I dare say, anywhere else in the United States like we do with the state of Israel. And that is what should be recognized. But Tucker Carlson says the opposite. So I question, why is he doing that? Is it because he has personal close ties with some of these evil Islamist countries? Is it because he has a deep-seated attitude toward Jewish people? I don't know. But it certainly raises the question, doesn't it? It certainly raises the question. And I could say it equally for those on the left, those in the Democratic Party that are trying to steer the liberal party of the United States, the party that has always stood up for good and has stood up for the state of Israel until relatively recent years, where it has taken a dark turn and has wrapped itself around this victimhood mentality that blindly supports, even when by any measure it is support of evil. They still take the side of that so-called oppressed victim, even when the oppressed victim is doing such evil. And they, in fact, are not the oppressed victim. Thank you for joining me on the Andrew Parker Show. It has been enjoyable to chat with you about the U.S.-Israel relationship. We have some great episodes coming up. Dean Phillips will be joining us, and that should drop, right after the first of the year, probably. And Melanie Phillips will talk about some more of the same issues that I've talked about on this episode: the U.S.-Israel relationship, anti-Semitism around the world, and in particular in Europe. She will be coming to us live from Jerusalem. Thank you once again for joining us. And until our next episode, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Really, one word, theandrewparkershow.com. You'll find a great website there. You'll be able to share with us your email address. I promise I won't inundate you with emails. I will simply provide you with episodes as they drop, and we can engage if you would like to do so. Frankly, we can do that as well by you texting us at 952-522-2818. Send us a text, 952-522-2818. If you agree, if you disagree, if you think we don't get an enormous multiplier return for the $3.5 billion in military assistance from the state of Israel, I'd like to hear from you, because your thinking would be, I'll call it interesting, for lack of a better word immediately. Until next time, be kind to your neighbor. For more Smart Plain Talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments.
Did your employer make you sign a promissory note when joining the company, and now you want to leave, but you're afraid your firm will pursue you personally for that debt? This is Jesse Keyboard from the law firm Parker Daniels Keyboard. I recently represented a client who had signed such a note, and I was able to get them out of their $500,000 debt to their company, which allowed them the freedom to exit a bad employment situation and enter a much better one. Meeting our clients' objectives is our focus at Parker Daniels Keyboard, and in this regard, we win. Our experienced trial team of lawyers at Parker Daniels Keyboard have secured major victories in state and federal courts across the country and through arbitration. We have the legal expertise in all types of business disputes, labor and employment matters, real estate matters, shareholder disputes, financial transactions, security issues, and appeals. For wise counsel, winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, a premier litigation law firm that provides efficient, aggressive, and innovative solutions to complex legal problems. Wise counsel, winning results. Go to parkerdk.com.
Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.